it all.
And we missed a few little stories, one being Sony buying Bungie. So, I mean, we're not going to labour it, but what were your reactions? Maybe start with you, Mike.
Don't care.
Don't care? Swinny?
Thank
podcast for a month.
Thank you for that detailed input into that topic, Mike. I appreciate it.
I had no reaction. I'm like, yeah, whatever.
So, well, the thing is, right, this is a... It makes sense in a lot of ways, but at the same time, it's still just bizarre because Bungie, while they've obviously been separated from Microsoft and Xbox for a long time, is still so intrinsically linked to the birth of the Xbox.
Yeah.
And for Sony to then essentially own the creators of Halo, and obviously they've created, Destiny and Marathon and all those other games, and Oni, which is a game I like, but it's still just bizarre. And it's funny that it was like 2 days after you had your one sexy pitch for how to save Sony.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's not about buying stuff. And then what does Sony go do?
And in the grand scheme of things, it's still like a tenth of what, or was no, the 20th.
Less than that, isn't it? About the 20th or something.
Of Activision Blizzard, and nothing like of the order. But it didn't make me laugh. But at the same time, and I kind of wish we did cover it, just because, like, to me, it's the weirdest acquisition deal I've ever seen in my whole like business career. Like, forget about gaming, just in total terms around business. The fact that they can make whatever games they want, they can publish to other platforms, and it's up to them. It's actually been published and said, it's totally up to Bungie. If they want to publish, they could publish theoretically something exclusively for Xbox. Like, the wording is very explicit that they can do whatever they want, right? And I'm just like, what the hell is this deal? This is like the weirdest deal of acquiring a company and then just like they can do whatever they want with their IP, and I don't know, it struck me as very bizarre. And like the last thing I just wanted to say on it was Bungie have the best commercial negotiators in the history of gaming. Like the fact that they're able to get out of Xbox, go independent, then go to Activision with the publishing deal. They had a 10-year publishing deal. Activision owned the rights to Destiny. Somehow, Bungie were able to extricate themselves from not only the publishing deal, but also take the IP rights with them and then get this billion-dollar deal with Sony and then have no obligations to do anything with Sony. It's so odd. Like, it's so odd. I don't know why it's so expensive, like, given that they don't have, like, exclusive control. It's strange, man. I think Sony must be just thinking, like, Bungie are going to be a powerhouse for their live service games. And, like, they're willing to pay the extra amount. If you go back with some of the biggest acquisitions that, like, Sony's done from a gaming front, stuff like, the technology that's powering PS Now, like, they spent, like, $1 billion or $500 million on that. Like, more than Insomniac.
Gaikai, wasn't it?
Yeah. That was more than an Insomniac game. So... yeah, like, I don't know. It honestly was the weirdest acquisition. Like, all the Microsoft ones make a lot of sense to me. They seem, like, expensive, but the Bungie one kind of relatively makes it seem not so bad in a weird way. Like, you think about what they're getting with Activision Blizzard versus Bungie, it's like Destiny. Like, that's it. Like, literally. They get nothing else with it. It's weird.
And the acquisition bandwagon's rolling on as well. There's lots of little acquisitions, and not so little acquisitions in the... one min for the Swin later as well.
Yeah, and I'm keen for that. And then the only other big one was like the Nintendo Direct that happened. Like, I think we were talking about live streaming it, and then I ended up getting COVID. That knocked me out for a few weeks. I've been so sick. I've had COVID. I had like a sinus headache the other week. I've got a cold now. Like, I've been through the wars in February.
Never have kids, people.
Yeah, and then torrential flooding in Sydney as well. It's so crazy at the moment. But we're much better off than other people, that's for sure, at the moment. But yeah, the Direct was cool. Like, the only thing I wanted to shout out was Switch Sports. I tried the gameplay demo. It's really, really cool. Definitely going to be like an instant party game for a lot of people. And I wonder how big it's going to be, just given that so much time has passed from Wii Sports that it's kind of like that nostalgic zone rather than being, this is lame. So I could imagine it being pretty big, especially, post-pandemic and people kind of getting together more. And the Mario Kart announcement was really cool. Like, it's insane they're doubling the amount of tracks in that game. So
Watching everyone else's reaction to that news, everyone's like, oh, come on, that's ridiculous. Like, give us a new Mario Kart, and then when they announce how many tracks there were, everyone's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
And it's a part of the subscription, like the
Yeah.
plus subscription.
Because ultimately, like, that's obviously each Mario Kart brings gameplay changes and
Yeah.
different feel and stuff, but getting its own, essentially, like, the game already had so many courses, essentially getting a massive amount, obviously, you know, paid extra if you're not a subscriber and everything,
Yeah.
but to get it for that amount if you're already a Switch Online Expansion Pass member is kind of wild. But there's, like, those games are all about the tracks, so the fact
Yeah.
that they're adding so many, it's making me go, God, it's actually probably worth getting the Switch, the pass now. So
Yeah, and you know, like I think we criticize Nintendo a lot, but you know, you got to give them credit. They've improved the 64 emulation leaps and bounds, like to a point where a lot of people are like, you know, it's probably one of the best ways to play Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask and games like that. So, you know, you got to give them credit for improving a lot of those things. I've never actually played Majora's Mask, and now that they've improved the emulation, it's kind of like just the most logical place to play. I could play it on the 3DS, but then it's like I don't like some of the changes they've made to that 3DS version, so I'll probably play it on the 64 emulation. So, I mean, like there's a stack of news that happened, but they were probably the biggest ones that stood out that we definitely would have covered, but obviously, you know, we had like the month of February off randomly, so
yeah, like even looking back, like the show that we'd had planned for that week that we ended up having to take the hiatus, you know, I think the only other thing was the Mina the Hollower, you know, the new Yacht Games game, which we mentioned we both kickstarted, and they're just sending constant emails.
Yacht Club Gaming, chill the fuck out. Like, I genuinely love Yacht Club Gaming. I like, dude. As soon as the Kickstarter came out, I was like, yeah, all on board. You know, I know a lot of people are like, why are they kickstarting it? They've got enough money. Just don't kickstart it then. Wait till the game comes out and buy it, right? Like, you don't need to kickstart it if you don't want to. But anyway, Swinny and I straight away went into it. But fuck me, they've like sent literally 14 emails in the space of like, what is it, a month?
Yeah.
It's like literally one every other day. It's like insane. Chill out, guys. Like, you got me. I'm on board. Like, I'd want to know something maybe once a week at most, not once every 3 days or 2 days. But it's looking pretty sick, the game. It's looking, but I kind of don't want to know anything about it. So I might start filtering my emails. It's like I don't see the emails.
Well, you could probably Kickstarter probably has a notification manage setting or something.
The setting, I actually checked it because they're emailing so much. I checked it and it's literally like you get no updates or you get all of it. And I'm like, that is not helpful because
Wow.
I'm worried that they're going to send an email. It's like, what platform do you want it on?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that,
So I'm
yeah.
like, shit, like, I don't know. Maybe I'll just turn it off and I'm assuming I'll read it on some gaming news site. So, but that's looking really cool. But it seems like it's far away. Like, they're scheduling it for like late next year. Maybe it'll come a bit earlier, hopefully. But yeah, no. It was actually a huge month in gaming for Feb. And then like the amount of games coming out as well in Feb, like, redonkulous, you know? So, and I, like, before we go to Mike, well, maybe part of that, like, none of us had got Horizon Forbidden West, right?
No, I thought about starting for
Zero
Zero Dawn.
Yeah.
So definitely not getting that sequel anytime soon. So
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know when I'm going to get to it, honestly. And maybe, like, I'll segue into one of the reasons why I'm not going to get into it for a moment. Mike, what have you been playing?
Elden Ring.
surprise, surprise.
Same issue as you. I think getting. I want to play Horizon. Absolutely do. I love the first one, but I just between that and a couple of other games that I'm going to mention, I don't know. There's just no time.
No.
So we'll do a segment on Elden Ring because both Intergod and I have been playing it. Swinny we're trying to get into, but he's trying to.
Well, we'll let Swinny
You'll
cover
talk
it.
about some of that other stuff that got in the way for you as well. So yeah, we'll talk about it in more detail. Very excited to talk about that one. I've also been playing another game called Infernax, just briefly. It's not on the run sheet, but
Yeah, I know. Like, where is it? Yeah,
that was probably about two weeks ago that I played it. It's interesting. It's a very NES inspired or NES era inspired kind of game with cool kind of little choices that you can make that alter the world and alter the kind of character that you become. I haven't completely finished it, but it's a really fun game. Highly recommended. It's on Xbox Game Pass, so you can play it for free if you've got that. Totally worth trying out.
And that game's it's actually gotten quite a good following on the internet as well. I think that it's just,
I'd see why. It's really cool.
it's not that it's doing anything revolutionary from what I can see. It's more that I think it just hit at the right time for people that were kind of just wanting a new kind of classic throwback Castlevania style arcade platformer, So.
Yeah. I must admit, I wish it wasn't. I wish it was more of a SNES kind of game. It's maybe a little too. I wouldn't call it clunky or anything. It's quite refined for what it is. But I think it would have been super awesome if it actually was that one era later, if that makes sense, in terms of the animations and some of the things about it. And the last thing, because surprisingly in the last month and a bit, actually I haven't played all that much, and most games that I played were only in the last 4 or 5 days. Is Gran Turismo 7.
Yeah.
So grabbed myself a copy of that because, of course, I had to. And look, so far it's exactly what you'd expect, for better or worse. Mostly for better, because it's a solid game. But it does. I mean, it's kind of like when I played Horizon, and I was telling you guys that everyone was blown away graphically, etc. But to me, it was just an evolution of the same game. There was nothing really necessarily fresh in the game.
Would you mean Zero Dawn or?
No, so as in Forza Horizon, when I was talking about that, and how it didn't really revolutionize the Forza Horizon gameplay.
I'm with you, Intergot. I'm like, wait.
Yeah, that was a bit confusing.
Yeah, and then I was like, wait, I thought we all said that we didn't play.
No.
Horizon.
So look, solid game. Absolutely. So I haven't played it a ton, as in I don't know how many hours I put into it, because it just came out, like 2 days ago or something. But what I do like is that it goes back to its roots, where unlike sport, that was very heavily focused on multiplayer and the online racing scene, this goes back to a proper single player campaign where you start off with, a crappy little hatchback and you make your way through getting much better cars. I'm still at the crappy era of still driving hatchbacks and stuff, and getting my licenses.
Hey, there's nothing crappy about a hatchback.
Yeah, hot
No,
hatch.
nothing. Hey, I drive a Mazda 2 a lot of the time.
Not saying I'd want to drive a hatchback in a driving sim, but
Rather than a Ferrari.
Rather than Ferrari, something, yeah. But I really love how it's gone back to its roots. I mean, I'm not going to go about how good the game looks and all of that, because it's quite obvious. But I think what's really cool is that it does have that proper solid single player campaign that I think a lot of people were craving, that they've been missing in the last few titles, where you start from scratch and you build stuff up, you customize your car, you slowly get introduced to the world map and all the different bits and pieces that you can do. And one of the cool additions is this cafe where you go and you effectively get missions, and they help you sort of, it's like quests, I would almost say, that help you decide where to go next and what to do in a more structured way. But at any time, you can pretty much go and race different cars and purchase cars and whatnot. So yeah, it's been good. Highly recommend it to anyone who just wants a game to jump into, jump out of. It's one of those games that I can see myself just playing on and off for the next 2-3 years or whatever until the next title comes out.
And how are you playing it? Because are you playing it with a steering wheel or?
No. So obviously I've got the steering wheel because I played sport with the steering wheel. Just the controller, which is really cool. So the triggers actually feel really nice. They definitely have that proper force feedback. They've also integrated motion sensing for steering,
Like gyro, right?
like proper, yeah, with the gyros, yeah, and it actually works extremely well. So I played that a little bit. I still, I guess, kind of prefer the traditional way of doing it, but at the same time, the gyro
Like the
actually
wheel,
works really
or
well.
do you mean the sticks?
So just the no, I just use the sticks for steering.
So you prefer that over gyro?
Yeah, but at the same time, the gyro is actually really cool. That
I've heard people say really good things about the gyro.
Really
That's
cool.
what I was
man.
asking. Yeah, because people are saying that the gyro is amazing.
So
I think I might actually go to the gyro eventually, just because it's fun.
So all those people, including members of my family that used to control Mario
Yes,
Kart,
exactly.
like this,
Yeah.
they were all ahead of the curb.
Way ahead of the curve. I was playing and thinking of exactly that. I'm like, oh my god, now people can actually do that for reals.
Now a 3-year-old can play this game.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's probably it felt a little overly sensitive by default, but then I think that's because I was talking to a mate who's big in this game. The whole game feels like the cars have a little bit of oversteer compared to sport. So they've changed the physics engine, I think, quite a bit in that sense. Now, there's probably settings you can do to bring it down a bit, but it did feel a little overly sensitive. I didn't go into a lot of the options and stuff to check that. But anyway, that's highly recommend it for if you're a car lover. It's a must get if you've got a PlayStation 5.
Yeah,
What about you, Antigone?
I'd love to try the controller, like just to see if that is an interesting way to play versus because I feel like you'd need to get a steering wheel with these kind of games.
Oh,
Like when it's more like a sim
amazingly
game
with a steering wheel.
I think
Yeah.
Forza Horizon it's better with sticks, but just with the more simmy kind of game, it feels like I got to get a steering wheel. It's like too much. That's why
absolutely.
I never got
Yeah.
into it because it's like oh my god, it's like a huge investment or something. But
It's not. I mean, look, the steering wheel itself. I think I bought for 300 and
Pretty expensive.
something bucks,
for
which is
one game,
well, it wasn't just because I played a whole bunch of games
Sure,
on it,
sure,
Drive
sure,
Club, etc. On PC because it obviously works on PC as well. So, did I get my money's worth? Probably not. But did I get my money's worth from an experience perspective? Hell yeah! The experience of using a steering wheel is freaking amazing, especially if you use because I've got the manual shifter as well, and because I think we were talking about this before because I drive stick. Using a proper clutch and using
Yeah.
a stick on a game like this is
it's pretty sick.
it's amazing. It's awesome. It's so cool. And a proper TV. I've got a little stand where I can put the pedals and everything. So it's nice and solid. It's an amazing experience that I think is easily worth the $300. Given that if you go to one of those simulators, like in Port Melbourne or something, I think I went once. They've got an F1 simulator. It's $50-$60 a session for 30 minutes or something. So
Do you know-
$300.
Do you know what would be crazy? Because we're going to cover this in 1 min for the swin, but the PSVR 2 is coming out, let's say within the next 2 years, right? Because they're talking about it so much. It's either going to be Christmas or like next year. It would be sick if they updated Gran Turismo 7 to have a VR mode. Because I actually watch a crazy amount of sim racing YouTube channels. Like, even though I don't have a wheel, I never actually play sim racing games, but
They'll probably add it. Sport had
Maybe.
it, but it
They're
was
gonna be
limited.
cool.
It didn't have the full experience in VR. So I played Sport in VR, I think with the steering wheel as well.
Yeah.
So the full works. And it is an incredible experience, even though PSVR 1 isn't, when you compare it to a lot of the stuff that came afterwards, it's not that great anymore. But it was still such a cool experience. Like you're driving.
it's immersive, right?
Super immersive, dude.
Yeah.
I'm driving the Miata, and I'm popping my head like this, and you literally look out the window of the car through the windscreen, and it's insane. It just feels so cool. It's one of the coolest experiences I had. It's nuts.
I think that's like such a you thing. It's such a Mike thing to like try to do something like that. Like people
was-
would
I was
think
like-
that.
Driving down, but it's incredible. It felt
awesome.
it felt really really cool.
You need,
So
you
I'm
need to
looking
have
forward
like
to PSVR
you
2.
need to have like your girlfriend there with the fan, and as soon as she sees you stick your head out, she turns the fan on, so it feels like the wind's
Yeah.
going in your face.
I've got videos of her playing it just with the normal controller with PSVR, and she was doing the whole thing with the controller, even though I wasn't doing anything.
Nice. Well, I'm impressed that you're actually playing other games other than Elden Ring.
Crazy, I know.
Yeah. So like
Speaking
of, like I've been playing Elden Ring as well. We'll cover that later. I've also been playing Triangle Strategy. Part of that I will say is kind of for the show. Like I thought I'll play enough to get a bit of impressions. And same as Kirby because the demo came out and I'm like, okay, interesting. I'm gonna buy Kirby in the Forgotten Land, given that it's like highly ranked in my anticipated game. So I might as well play the demo, talk about it on the show. But that's it. I have not been playing any other games. Like I was sick
Wow.
for most of February, and I was just like too sick to play games. Like it was just like everything went dusty. But now that I'm feeling better, yeah, no, seriously, my controller, my Switch Pro controller was like dusty. I was like, wow, this is crazy. But yeah, now that I'm feeling better, I'm definitely playing a stack of Elden Ring. And Swinny, what have you been playing?
So I weirdly actually have also not played as much as you'd expect me to. I've obviously played more than you from the just looking at the list we've got ahead of us.
3 or 4
but
hours a night or something?
I've been back in the rut of watching Let's Plays of games that I love. So I've been watching.
The Bloodborne expert.
So I've been now watching a lot of Metal Gear Solid Let's Plays all the way through. I've watched the guy play through the entire series and spin-offs and stuff. So it's actually made me. I've never actually played through number 5, so I'm actually thinking about starting that soon. But
nice.
obviously, there's a lot on the plate at the moment, so I'm not going to hit that for a little bit. But
Can I pause you for a second? I always love asking you streaming ideas because I know you're never going to do it, so it's quite amusing to me. But how amazing would it be if Mike and I were like, reacting and commenting on you playing Bloodborne for the first time. I think that would be amazing because
I'd love to watch that.
like Swinny's pretending to be frozen right now.
Well, you said
But-
pause for a minute. So.
But I think that would be amazing. I think like it's you're very good at the Souls games and you've watched so much Bloodborne. It would be funny if you actually just dominate the game from the start. That's a
Well,
good idea, Swinny. You have to admit.
I have the advantage of knowing where good stuff is
That's what I'm saying. That's
versus
what I'm saying.
blind players. But
Yeah.
at the same time, yeah, like I don't think streaming from my console setup at the moment is not exactly something I'd want to do. So,
Oh, but you're open to it. It sounds like you're open to it.
so the
Is that
games
'cause
I
it's
have
in your
been
bedroom?
playing,
I'd love to watch
they're
that.
they're in different areas of the house. So yeah. So what I have been playing, so I caved in and did my replay of Fatesworn, the DLC for
Oh
Kingdoms
no,
of Amalur.
no, you caved
I just said bugger it. I'm just gonna play through the whole thing again. Did a
Well,
speed
give,
run.
give the context
Wow.
to the people.
Yeah,
So-
remind us.
So I played about a month and a half ago. I played through Fatesworn, the DLC for Kingdoms of Amalur: Re-Reckoning, and there's an achievement for completing all the quests in the game, the side quests and the main quests in the DLC. And that was probably like 15, 20 hours expansion. You know, I took my time and everything was fun. And it glitched out on me. And it's well-known glitches where if you handle a quest in a certain way, it doesn't count that you've completed it. So I'm like, okay, I'll just wait to see if they patch this. But honestly, as the weeks went on, I'm like, I just don't have confidence that they're going to patch it in a way that would just unlock for people that have actually met the criteria. So I said, bugger, I'm just going to play through it again. So I did like a bit of a speed run through the DLC. It took me probably about 7 hours, maybe 7-8 hours, and finished it up. So that's it. So that was one of the things I played.
You have a true sickness, Swinny. You played through the whole game, 7 hours, just to get the achievement.
But the thing is, the good part about Kings of Amalur, it means I got to play with different weapon types.
Yeah,
and stuff
true.
Through the replay. So the next game I have on my list is actually a game called The Order 1886.
Oh,
So
this is
game
cool.
Okay.
game
heard.
from about 7 years ago that was
a
very
launch
mixed,
game, right?
very mixed reviews. If it wasn't launched, it was very damn close to launch for PS4. And goddamn, that game is gorgeous. It's
It
one of
actually
the-
still looks really good,
it's
doesn't
one
it, to
of
this
still,
day?
yeah.
I play it now and I'm like, this looks better than most next generation, like current gen PS5 and the Xbox Series X games I've seen. It looks so gorgeous, and the game's running at 30 frames, and it's got like the black, whatever they call it, the black bars on the top and bottom. But weirdly, I don't hold this view, but you know the whole view about games at 30 frames are more cinematic, right? That whole thing, right? I don't have.
What a maniac would think that.
I don't hold that view, but if I did, this is the game that I'd use as it, or one of the games I'd use as evidence, because it does definitely, like, it's weird. It's running at 30, but it has a certain feel to it. Like, I had to check. I'm like, is this game actually running at 24? Like a movie? 'Cause it felt very movie. It's not. It's running at 30.
30. Yeah,
but,
they announced that
yeah.
before the game came out.
Yeah, so basically, so I'm playing through a whole bunch of PlayStation games I missed as part of my PlayStation pile of shame resolution.
Yep.
So this was the next one I had on my list, and I knew it wasn't a long game. It was about 7-8 hours, so I was happy with the length. Honestly, the game at first, I'm like, it took a lot to sell me on it because it feels like an interactive movie a lot of the ways. It's got lots of QTEs and things like, like interactive button presses, and some of the boss fights just feel like you're just essentially in a cutscene. But it did win me over. Like it does. I really like the world and the characters, and it is a shame that the game will never get a sequel. It just won't.
It literally, this is the funny thing. Googling it, it definitely wasn't a launch game. People criticizing it, saying it looks like a launch game. It only came out about a year after the PS4 came out in 2013, late 2013. But they are actually saying that a sequel is in the works for PS5.
So I've read some of
Cool.
those stories, and
Yeah.
a lot of them don't.
True.
They don't
Okay.
sound that
Just
credible.
leaks.
But
Okay.
look, it could. I'd love it. But the thing is, the game, like, I think that game would have had a sequel by now already.
Yeah.
Plus, if now obviously I'm assuming Sony own the IP, but Ready at Dawn now work for, I think it's Oculus. So anyway, so developers have moved on. They're not with Sony. They don't work on Sony stuff anymore.
Okay.
So. The next one is
Mystery
this
game.
time for my mystery game?
mystery
Okay.
game.
Are we allowed to guess what it is?
You're not gonna. we're going to be here forever if you do this.
Okay,
So
fine.
this was actually a game I played before we went on a hiatus, but it just didn't fit into any of the banter. Like, it just felt weird to do it. But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to talk about it now. So there's been a lot of talk about mobile games recently as part of these acquisitions and everything. And on the show itself, we've said we're not into that world.
Candy Crush.
So
Please don't say Candy Crush.
So
Candy Crush.
as part of me trying to branch out and learn a bit more about the industry, I installed Candy Crush Saga.
Oh my god.
And I guess
And
by
what's
the way.
funny, and what's you did, and what's
That's
funny
an
is
amazing guess, by the way.
what's funny is Mike was talking about Candy Crush Saga like that week that I chose not to talk about it. I'm like, Anyway, what I wanted to do was install it and see how long I could last before the monetization pushed me away, right?
I want to uninstall you as a friend.
Okay.
Jeez.
Now, one thing about this, I actually really like match 3 games.
Yeah, so do I.
I used to play a lot of Bejeweled games and stuff like that, and ones like that. So I'm like, okay, how bad can it be, right? So I install it, I still load it up, and I'm like, this game, the game feel and like the game moment-to-moment gameplay is actually good, right?
We've lost him.
It's actually
Wrong.
you actually play it when you start it for the first time. You're like, this game's actually not bad, but what they do when they slowly seep in the systems around monetization, I uninstalled it about the 30-minute mark of playing that
pretty quick,
game.
actually.
I'd already uninstalled it because as soon as then they start talking about the whole energy and life
Buy
systems, and you're
jewels.
like, oh, okay, all right. I
Get
thought
the
if I
fuck
thought
out of here.
if I was good enough, I could just keep playing.
No,
But
no.
no. So what I wanted to then do as a palate cleanser is actually find a good match 3 game that did suit my needs. And that is the next game I'm talking about, which is called You Must Build a Boat.
Okay, that sounds interesting.
So this is a game I'd actually heard about a long time ago, but I've forgotten about. And when I was researching, what's a good match 3 game that's not free to play, that doesn't have monetization, that you can just literally buy for a couple of dollars and that's it. And this was showing up at a lot of the top of people's lists. This game's actually really, really fun. So basically, it keeps reminding you, you must build a boat, like when you complete levels and stuff. So basically, start with a small boat, you build up, you get like shops and new people joining it. And it's just fun. And between, you upgrade your character, but then you go on these missions that are essentially, as you see in the B-roll on YouTube, match 3 missions where you're fighting through enemies in dungeons and stuff. And it's just fun. It's just fun as a casual game to play when, I'm just lying down for a rest or something, really, really fun. It's got a campaign. I beat the campaign. So, yeah, that was it was a good way to cleanse the stench of the Candy Crush from my life.
And you were playing this on PC or mobile?
No, I was playing it on mobile. So
That's funny.
The
'cause
proper experience.
I also played...
it's on Steam. So
Yeah, no, I saw that it was on Steam. But it was just funny because I also played a mobile game, which is something I never ever do. I was playing
tell us.
Mario Kart Tour because
how is that these days?
it's just I actually really like Super Mario Run. I'll defend that game. I think that was a good game. It's not great, but it's like arguably better than some of the new Super Mario Brothers games. But Mario Kart Tour is just like it's so rough, man. It's so like I just can't abide by it.
It just feels
really annoying.
dirty, doesn't it? It just feels
Yeah.
dirty. Like this isn't right.
It's way too much monetization in the game, and then also just the controls. Like this is one thing about Mario Kart because like part of it is like I'm slowly getting through all the Mario Kart games, including the arcade ones, to do a tier list. The only one I'll miss out on is the VR game, but there's only like 4 sites in the. Actually, I'm probably going to Japan this year. So I'm going to hold off on this tier list. I'm going to play Mario Kart VR. Then I can fucking say I played every single Mario Kart game.
Why don't you do the tier list and
No,
just add
no,
it to the
no.
tier list?
No,
No,
because
he's
then I
gotta
can
do
say
the
I've
yeah.
played every fucking Mario Kart game. You come at me.
I'm coming at you because you lazy bastards haven't done your own fucking tier list. So I'm the one doing
He's
the
doing
tier
one.
list.
He's doing one. Wait,
I'd struggle because I'm thinking, what series can I even do the tier list on? Like,
he's doing one.
Mike should do a Forza tier list or something where you play
Yeah.
everything.
I haven't played every single game of like series. Like, it's just not my thing.
Oh, yeah.
So,
okay.
but anyway, Yeah, the game's rough. The game's rough. But it was just weird that you played that and then I also played that because we're not mobile gamers. Mike,
No.
you didn't play any mobile games, did you?
No, hell no.
I mean, we
Well, I
played
should say
Wordle.
hell
I
no.
guess
They're
it
not all
counts.
that bad. I think the last proper mobile game I played was, what was that really graphically good looking game? The not
Genshin
medieval, like,
Impact.
no, that fantasy.
You're not talking about
medieval-
Infinity Blade, are you?
Yeah, something like
What?
that. Yeah.
How good am I at guessing tonight? This is
Yeah.
like,
No, I was
Yeah.
thinking Infinity Blade as well, but I'm like, no,
Yeah, that one.
it's not like the game that's like 10 years old or something.
Yeah, that
is it?
one.
that
was
is the reason
literally,
why
I
we
think,
don't have
the
Shadow
last
Complex
time
2.
I played a
Fuck
mobile
me.
game.
That's the reason we don't know. And you can't even download that game anymore.
Now, I will have. I've got a bit of a recommendation.
Good guess. By the way.
I don't know if you guys know about this, but there's an app called Mini Review. And what that is, it has reviews of mobile games, but the good part is you can say, okay, I only want to see games that are like premium, as in you purchase them,
Okay.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they're offline, so you don't have to have a server connection. Like, so you can actually say, okay, show me all the good stuff and give me alerts when there's games that fit this kind of criteria. So Mini Review is a pretty cool app. So I'm not sponsored, by the way.
And the last thing we this has become the mobile
No
gaming
games on my phone
podcast,
at all.
but you know, I know that you're not an Apple fan, Swinny, and I criticize them a lot, but the Apple Arcade service is actually legitimately decent. Like they have it so there's no monetization, there's no DLC. It's just you subscribe. I don't know how much it costs. It's pretty cheap, and the games like I did it for free, a free trial, and I'm like, I don't play mobile games, but if I did, I'd definitely get this because it's like pretty decent games that go on there.
The Google version of that's not that great, but it does have Stardew Valley, so I did
Yeah,
try a bit of
that's
that.
pretty
But I'm
decent.
like,
That would
I
be
just
cool,
didn't.
actually,
I
yeah.
didn't like Stardew with mobile controls
Nah.
at all. So, all right,
All right, and let's
so a
talk about
couple
the
of
reason
games.
why you're not playing Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Yes, so
It's
the
amazing to me.
reason, the reason why I've yet to start Elden Ring, it's actually, you can't see it in this view, but I've got the collector's edition up on the shelf there. So I have Elden Ring.
And you're a
and I've-
passionate fan.
He does. He
of
bought
this
the
got
collector's edition, no less, for
the,
$380.
The
He's got his
statue
waifu
here.
statue.
I don't know who this is. I'm sure that I'll find out when I eventually play.
I have no idea, and I've put 40
yeah,
hours
I
into
know,
that game.
same.
So, this week saw the release. This week saw the release of one of my most anticipated games. Which is Elix 2.
The Elden Ring Crusher Destroyer.
All right, Mike, let me explain this game, please. So
Yes.
this game, it came out on Tuesday, and it's the latest game from Piranha Bytes. So they're famous for the Gothic series and the Risen series. So essentially, like European RPG developers, and you could say these guys are the kings of Eurojank. Like if you say Eurojank, Piranha Bytes is the people.
They're
developer,
synonymous
the people
with it.
think of them, and for good reason. Like the games have a feel to them that like they don't feel quite right, but the best part, the good part about their
Like
games
me.
though, is
Yeah, Mike
Is
is
it-
Eurojank.
You're a jack, baby.
Yeah.
Ain't quite right.
quite right. If you're into RPGs and exploring like an open world that's like crafted with the very narrative and choice focused and everything, like these games have a lot to offer because they're just fun. They're not. They're definitely B games, but they're fun.
It's got a jetpack. I mean, come on.
It actually looks really cool.
So I've basically, knowing that this game was coming out on Tuesday and the Elden Ring was coming out on the Friday before, I said, well, if I start Elden Ring, I'm going to get stuck into it. And then
Yeah.
I really wanted to, honestly, Elix is the kind of game, or Elix 2 is the kind of game that I felt more like playing at the moment, like that style of RPG. I was just, sometimes you're in the mood for a certain style of game.
I'm not gonna lie, but I want to play this. There's something
So-
about this that I actually really want to play.
So basically, what I did is I said, "Look, I'm not going to start Elden Ring. I'm going to start Elix, and if it gets its claws into me, then I get stuck playing that. Then I'll see how I go when I actually start Elden Ring." And the unfortunate part is, I haven't actually had that much time or have been in the mood to play that many games this week in general. So I've only put about maybe 5 hours into it since it came out. So, which for me is that's pretty low considering it came out like 5 days ago or something. So,
An hour a day.
but I'm enjoying it so far. But I'm very early on. I'll give my thoughts once. Oh, there's one thing I want to say. It's honestly, it's not really spoiler because you find it right at the start of the game. But I was in like this one of the first main camps you come to, and then I hear on the radio they're talking about a Billy Idol concert. And then it gives me a quest. I'm like, oh, that's weird. It must be something where
On the radio in the game.
it must be something where there's like some guy calling himself Billy Idol. So I rock up to this like amphitheater in the game. There's an actual Billy Idol
Wow.
concert in the game with a song that I think he recorded for the game.
But doesn't
awesome.
that feel very immersion breaking?
Oh, well, the thing is, it's not the first time. So there was a Blind Guardian concert in Sacred 2 that was really weird as well. But
Wow.
that felt very appropriate because Blind Guardian are all about like fantasy,
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings style. This just felt like, why is Billy
that's what I
Idol
mean,
in this?
like, yeah,
it's
okay.
really weird. So anyway,
For people that aren't initiated in the ways of the Alex, I'm not initiated in the ways of the Alex. It's a
Is it Elix? Well, how do you say it?
Alex.
Yeah,
Elix.
Elix. That's what I thought.
It's set in a, from my understanding, a fantasy world with magic, but also sci-fi.
Is it
no,
high
so
fantasy or dark
I
fantasy?
would say no. It's more like a post-apocalyptic world
Yeah.
that then has sci-fi and some magic to it as well. So, but it's more
Okay.
like when you're exploring the world, it looks more like a Fallout than it does a
Fallout.
fantasy game.
Oh, okay.
So it's
Because-
Fallout
because
with
the
Mass Effect and...
Because the ruins in the game are like broken down factories and
Okay,
silos
cool,
and things
gotcha.
like that.
So they have taken Fallout, mixed it with Mass Effect and Dragon Age, basically.
Fallout's more like post-nuclear wasteland. This is more like, okay, everything's overgrown, shrubbery, and like people don't know the old technology and stuff like that. So it's more like probably more closer to
It's like
Horizon Zero
jetpacks.
Dawn than Fallout, honestly. So
It's a pretty
Gotcha.
long game. It's going to be like because you're going to 100% it, right? So it's going to be like an 80-hour type game, ballpark.
yeah, it's gonna take a while.
Okay.
It's a bit of a gamble doing that because I feel like with Elden Ring, there's a good chance that all the achievements are achievable. Whereas with Elex, I feel like you might put 70 hours into it and then realize one of the achievements broken.
Honestly,
Oh,
I don't.
okay, I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
I
no,
was
but the
confused by
thing
what
is,
you were saying there for a second.
I've never had a broken achievement in a Piranha Bytes game, so I
Okay.
trust them. All right, so the last thing I want to get to, I didn't
Yep.
realize it would take too long to get
No,
to.
that's fine.
This is fascinating. I
Was-
love hearing
It's fine.
this.
We're going to
Was
go
it-
for 3-5 hours or something.
Was another game that I played a lot, probably the game I played actually the most the last few weeks, is Katari Fables. So this game was on special and I picked it up. It's a game I've had my eye on for a while. It came out around mid last year. So this is like a top-down action RPG mixed with a life sim. So basically, it's as if it's like mixing Harvest Moon or Stardew Valley with a traditional action RPG.
And you're a cat?
You play as a cat, and you can make your
What?
cat. You can make your cat look a certain way. And the thing is, the characters don't. They also don't look like weird. You know, the whole anthro thing can look weird sometimes.
Why the
This
fuck
is
did you
like-
not tell me about this
It looks a
earlier?
little
Mike-
furryish.
Mike,
Little.
No, it's fine, Mike. I did tell you about this game, by the way.
Oh, okay.
All right, I said, Mike, you should.
Why
try
don't you
out-
make sure that I understood?
You should
what you
try
were
out
trying to say?
You should try out Katari Fables, Mike. It's like, okay.
Oh, actually, no, you're right. And you did send a video about it. I remember now, where you were dodging this.
And you sent the
big
code
dude's
as well.
attack. And you
Anyway.
sent me a code and a walkthrough. Oh, that's right. I put 40 hours into this game.
That
I
looks
remember
super
now.
furryish. What are you talking about?
Look, it's a bit furry,
Oh,
but I
that's-
just want to
that's
play as
probably-
a cat with a sword.
That's probably the worst character. I would say, in that regard. All right. So this game's actually a pretty popular game. There's a lot of people that love this game online, especially in the Switch when they got Switch release.
on
It's
Switch.
actually made by a developer called Twin Hearts, a very small developer actually from Indonesia. So
Our
that's,
neighbor.
that's
Our nearest
yeah,
neighbor.
exactly. So
I
and
want to support people.
I
like that.
did not know that until I looked it up just prior to the show. So that's good to know.
I
Awesome.
did not
But,
know
yeah.
Indonesians are into furries. That's quite interesting.
I think this is a really good game. If you like anything like
Furries.
Stardew, you'll probably really like it. It's not that bad. Don't worry, it's not a furry game. Don't worry about
I
it.
don't care if it is. I just want to play as a cat.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. Or maybe there is.
It's God, like something of Star Fox Adventures is way worse.
Yeah, indeed. I know
yeah,
that's-
actually, that's right.
I just wish the things I say about the game is I wish the RPG elements were a little bit deeper and grinding for certain materials that you want for crafting from some enemies can be a little tiresome. But other than that, I think it's really good. I haven't finished it yet. I really recommend it, especially if it goes on cheap. Katari Fables, if you like Stardew and your action RPGs,
And
I
Diablo.
think you'll like it.
Basically. Awesome.
Kind of like it.
Kinda.
Kind
I
of.
like how he adds to your recommendation on a game.
I
he has
know,
no
I know.
Fucking idea about.
Sorry, I should have said Diablo?
Diablo.
Was in the question Diablo?
All right, so we have no news this week,